We are going to get into the questions, but tell me, have you been enjoying these last 2 weeks off? How are you feeling not having football?
I went away straight away. I went for a little holiday to Copenhagen, and then I came home, and since then I've just like been twiddling my thumbs. I have no idea what to do with myself. I think this day after I got back from Copenhagen, I was just back in at the training ground training, and like I don't know. Even when I was in Copenhagen, I was like, oh, I could go for a little run or something. I'm not very good at resting. So I've just sort of, and my girlfriend's Australian, so she's flown back to Australia for a few weeks. And that's like double kill because like my friends are not here. And I'm just like, the other day, to be fair, I bought a Hoover and I hoovered for about 7 days. 7 days, it felt like it. Oh 7 hours. And that was like the highlight of my week. But no, I'm fine. I'm just, like finding stuff to do at the minute.
In a very clean flat, I assume.
Yeah. It's spotless. It's never been so clean since I got it.
Well, we are speaking at the end of May after a really impressive year on and off the pitch for Brighton. How are you? I mean, I do say, how are you feeling at the end of the season? But in terms of like football, how do you feel at the end of the season? The club finishing in their highest ever league position. It must have been pretty good vibes. Yeah, it was great vibes at the end. I mean, we had a great start. And then at that point, we were like, we can do anything this season, sort of come Christmas time, we just felt on top of the world, like we could do anything. And then we had a few tougher moments since Christmas. And it was like, oh no, like we've lost our sparkle a little bit. You know what I mean? It was a tough moment because even though we were doing way better than we had in previous seasons, it was like we were on such a great sort of trajectory and we wanted to maintain that, for ourselves, for the fans, for the investment that the club had made. And then we had some really, really big, important wins at the end of the season, like Everton and Arsenal, to sort of secure that 5th spot, which it felt like it was our spot the whole season. But then it come to the end and it was like, oh my God, anyone can get it. Anyone can, like, people came into form. West Ham were in really good form. Aston Villa were in really good form. So it was like we had to sort of grind out some sort of results. And we did, to be fair. So in the end, I think we got what we deserved. Yeah, it did feel a bit like you left the door open to 5th spot. And, there was a point in the season where I think 3 or 4 teams in mid-table technically could have finished 5th. And then you started getting the points back on the board. You must have been kind of looking anytime you maybe came out of a game without a win, thinking, oh no, someone's catching up. But they just never seemed to.
Well, that was the weird thing. It was like we went through a really sort of tricky few months. And it was almost like whenever we lost, someone else lost. You know what I mean? It just felt like that spot was sort of destined for us. And we did get lucky at some points, but also some points we got a bit hard done by or lacked a bit of luck. So it's sort of, I feel like by the end of the season, it sort of evened itself out.
We're going to talk a little bit about Dario and what he's brought to the club, but I just wonder if there was an element of, you seem to really understand that new style he wanted in that first half of the season and maybe kind of surprised a few teams who maybe weren't expecting you to play the way you were playing and really understand the style as well as you were. And maybe as the season went on, people maybe figured it out a little bit. Do you think there might have been an element of that and also an element of you guys then facing new challenges in this style as well?
Yeah, because I guess the conversation around Brighton changed and people then was like, oh, now we're preparing for Brighton. They're playing this style of football. Whereas at the start of the season, it was catching people out. It wasn't what they were expecting from us, I guess. And then it was a new sort of phase of us of, okay, how do we be adaptive in the game that when people expect us to play like this, that we catch them out in maybe a different way. But of course, coming in, Dario came in last summer, so to learn a new style and then also start to be more adaptive and play other styles at the same time, it's like a lot, for a brand new squad pretty much as well. So, it was a really eventful season. It felt like 2 split seasons into one. But in the end, we got that spot.
Yeah, as you said, Dario came into the club at the start of the season. Seems to have made a really positive impact. What has he done to change, I guess, the culture of the club, maybe both on and off the pitch, because you can really see a distinctive style now?
Well, I mean, he came in and you could tell he was a winner. It felt like immediately it was the first time I'd heard since being at Brighton that we wanted to win the league. I mean, I never heard that before, you know, and that was sort of what he came in with, that energy that every single week we're going to win the game. And that immediately changes the way that you go into the game and how you feel about the other team and everything. And obviously we made some great signings as well. And everyone sort of bought into that vision. And I know we didn't win the league, but you can see sort of if you're going for the highest spot, you're going to fall short, but higher than we ever had before still. So I really think that caught a lot of people off guard sort of in pre-season of like, wow, you know, if our manager's saying we're going to go for it, of course, like he's our leader, we're going to go for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's something I've found myself kind of asking managers a lot this season is about a commitment to a style, drilling it into the players, getting the players buy-in, having them trust that it's going to work. From a player perspective, what is that like, kind of putting your faith in a style where maybe sometimes it feels a bit tricky and maybe you want to revert back to something different, but you kind of have to trust in what the manager is saying and that trust in that the team is all pulling in the same direction?
Yeah, I mean, Dario is very clear in what he wants. You know, he's very much got his vision of what he wants us to play like. And, you know, I had never done some of the things that he'd asked me to do in the training sessions and on the pitch. So sometimes I was like, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing here, sort of thing. But I trust him and I trust that this is the right thing for us to do to win the game. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't work. Sometimes we still made mistakes and, like, you know, copped a few goals in the end. But we solely committed to that style of play. And you can really see that even when it wasn't working, we were trying to play. So, I mean, I think the girls completely trusted him as soon as he came in, and he was very, very clear. And I think that helps of, okay, you're standing here, but I want you to stand here. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, it can't get any clearer than that.
I mean, it's been a successful season for you personally as well. Obviously, a first call up to the England squad back for the games in April. That must have been a pretty special moment for you. What does it feel like getting the phone call like that from Sarina Wiegman?
I mean, I think it was just so overwhelming. When I look back on that week, I was completely overwhelmed and I just almost wanted to hide in my flat because everybody and anyone that had ever seen me or anything wanted to congratulate me, which is obviously such a lovely feeling. But you almost want to be like, okay, this is amazing, but I have to go there and perform. You know what I mean? So I can't get too high right now. And everyone is like, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing, which it is. But I need to train today still with Brighton. I need to sort of prepare for the game this weekend. So I remember being completely overwhelmed that week. But the call itself and everything like that was just surreal. It felt like a massive relief in a way because I always wanted to play for England and I always believed that I would, but then to feel, okay, I'm going on a camp, you know, there's many players that never end up going on to play for their senior team, for their international team, sorry. So it felt like a relief and also just like this overwhelming whirlwind at the same time.
Do you have like a story where were you when you got the phone call? What, like, you know, what kind of thing does it say? Does it come up with Sarina on the screen? Is it a no number? Is it SGP calling? What is the...
No, I was upstairs and I remember being like in a foul mood because I was just over it. Like I'm pretty sure we'd had a pretty bad result on the weekend. It might have been, I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was like a Tuesday. I was still feeling tired from the game and I was laid upstairs and it just came up as like random numbers. I didn't know who it was or anything like that, and I wasn't going to answer. And then I did, and I think I was just in shock. So when I was on the phone, I was just like not saying a word. And then, you know, Sarina invited me to go to camp, and I don't remember much of what she said to me. But once I put the phone down, I just started hysterically crying. Oh. And I was like, I need to call people and tell people, but I don't want to right now. I just want to like sort of tried to understand what's just happened. And then I ended up just calling my mum and my dad and everybody like that. And they were obviously the exact same reaction as me. So that moment, it is funny because, like I said before, it's an achievement, but unless you go there and sort of perform and do well, it's like that's all it is. It's just the one call up. And obviously I was hoping to make an impression for the future, for the next however many years of my career. So I had to be like super, super overwhelmed and excited, but also like calm and neutral at the same time, which is an impossible task, really.
I was going to say, I don't know how you do that. So then I guess what's the day like going to camp when you're driving to SGP, getting out of the car, all of that kind of vibe? What's it like stepping into camp for the first time?
I drove to camp with Nikita, so she is just like a talker. I mean, I'm sure you've spoke to her many times before. So in the car, I was nervous sort of under the surface, but she was really like soothing me because we were just chatting about the game and talking about all sorts. So yeah, I remember being nervous on the way there, but then once I'd arrived, I think we were there a little bit early, but some of the girls had their dogs there. And then it's just like, it didn't feel like I needed to be nervous anymore. It just felt like everyone was very lovely, welcomed me in. I obviously know quite a few of the girls there anyway that I've played with before. So it was almost like nervous until I got there and then no more nerves.
Do you feel like once you get on the pitch and once you start training, it's almost something to distract you? Like you don't even have time to think about being nervous. You need to focus on the drills and whatever it is you're working on. Yeah,
exactly that. And also I've done so many camps that are sort of laid out in the exact same way as the senior camps that it just sort of went into, you know, auto mode. Like I just sort of started carrying on as normal. Like I said, I knew a lot of the girls. I'd trained with a lot of the girls before. So it didn't feel too overwhelming. And once you're playing, you're not thinking about that. I mean, I don't anyway. So I remember sort of going to camp with the mindset of I'm just going to be exactly how I am at Brighton. You know what I mean? I won't be any different from that. And then, you know, hopefully it goes all right.
And is there much difference in intensity with the seniors? Or do you find, you know, having played against a lot of these players week in, week out in the WSL, that maybe it's quite easy to adapt to? Well, easy is probably the wrong word, but maybe quite natural to adapt to.
Yeah, a mixture of both, because the quality is just like incredible. You know, like you could smash a ball at someone and they'll just take it in and go and have a shot. Like the quality is just undeniably like the best that I've seen, definitely, and best I've been a part of. But, you know, the intensity is pretty similar to a game in the WSL. Obviously, these players are all... And when you play the top teams, which most of the girls are playing for, you have to be ready for that type of intensity. So it's nothing that I hadn't been exposed to before, but obviously just really concentrated with loads of great technical players.
And I guess some of these players who maybe you've played against, did anything surprise you, or did anyone in particular stand out?
Well, I wouldn't say... Yeah, I mean, people definitely stood out. Like I remember thinking, you know, Kira Walsh was just incredible. And Lauren, and like, I mean, all the girls were like, it would just be little things that they'd just take a player on and then just stick it in the top corner, and I'd be like, wow, fair enough. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I remember there was one time I was defending Chloe Kelly, and I was like, I think I was maybe acting as a bit of a defender at the time, and she was quite wide, and I was like, I don't really need to like go out to her because she's not going to shoot from there. And she just whipped it across the whole goal, like into the far corner. I was like, fairs. But yeah, nice one, Chloe. You know what I mean? Like I should have, but I never would have expected her to just smash it in the goal from there. So there's a few things that I was like, okay, right, I need to be ready for that now. But yeah, they're just quality.
I appreciate you didn't manage to, you know, get on the pitch during the Nations League's games against Belgium, but, you know, even being on the side of the pitch, warming up, having the crowd, like, what was that like?
I remember so vividly, like, walking out to warm up at Ashton Gate in Bristol. And that was, I've never experienced that before. And it felt like that moment that I thought being a professional footballer would feel like, you know, of like the stadium was already packed as we got there. And everyone's screaming, they've got the songs. It's like what you would, when I was younger, when I went to watch men's football, that's what I imagined. When I'm a professional footballer, I'll be out there and it'll be the exact same. And then it was like, I mean, don't get me wrong, like the games every single week, and in the WSL, how much it's growing and everything like that. And our fans at Brighton is growing so much, but that was a real, like, wow, this is a packed stadium. They have not stopped singing since we got here. They're all screaming. Like, it didn't feel overwhelming. I just felt like this feels right. You know what I mean? This feels how I always thought it would feel. So that was just like a moment I'll never forget.
Yeah, because I remember I got a couple of nice shots of you at that game during the warm-up, and you just looked really like relaxed and happy and having a nice time, and that's really nice to see when you've got like new players coming through, that they just seem really relaxed in the environment.
That was the sort of thing that I took away, was it didn't feel like the opportunity had come too early. It didn't feel like I was completely overwhelmed while I was there, but it was still incredible. It was still like, wow, I haven't experienced this before. But I just remember thinking, I'm just going to absolutely like soak this all in, because, you know, you never know how many times you're going to play in that sort of, hopefully many, many times. But for the first time, it was just like, wow, I've never seen anything like this before.
I guess as well, you know, you've spoken about some of the health troubles you suffered when you were watching England win the last Euros. How do you look back at that kind of difficult period now you've been in and around the squad?
It's something that only in the recent weeks that sort of, I mean, like I said, now I've got a lot of downtime and a lot of time to sort of think. And it did dawn on me the other day that the last time I went to watch the Euro final was the beginning. Like, I was very ill when I went to the game, but I didn't know quite how ill I was. And it sort of dawned on me that like I've been competing to try and make a spot in that squad, like whether I do or not is sort of like the fact that I've been competing to sort of make the squad. It just only dawned on me the other day, the difference in what like a few years have made. And I still don't think I've fully processed that, to be fair.
Yeah, it must be a pretty incredible moment. Like when those difficult things happen, those highs must feel like they're so far away. So when you do actually have them, it must make you appreciate them even more, I suppose.
Yeah, well, it's been pretty gradual over the last few years. Obviously, I had to build up to getting back on the pitch and then back in training. And it's been, a 4-year process from like door to door pretty much. But when you reflect and look back, it's really hard to process it. And I don't think I have at all, to be honest.
Yeah, I feel like that happens with a lot of players when you talk to them about their career and various things that have happened, whether they're injuries or illnesses, and it's not really something you actually let yourself sit back and reflect on until you're done and dusted and you maybe hang up your boots. So it's a pretty incredible story and super cool that you actually have now kind of broken into the squad, which is amazing. Obviously, we heard the news this week as well that Mary Earps has decided to retire from international football. What was she like around camp? Did you get to engage with her much?
Yeah, I mean, she's a bit of a legend, isn't she? So, I mean, immediately, I remember her giving me a bit of stick, and I'd always give her a bit of stick back, and she'd be like, aren't you meant to be a bit shy? Isn't this your first camp, sort of thing like that? And we would just be going back and forward the whole time. And I was sat next to her at the Bristol game, and we was just sort of having a nice little... She was very welcoming to me and really, really lovely, and I'm almost a bit gutted that we only got to have that one camp together, really. But of course, she has written herself in the history of women's football over and over and over and over again, especially of English football. So, yeah, what a legend.
Yeah, and I guess when you were having those warm-ups in Bristol, that's the name I always hear when I'm sitting pitch side shooting. They're always screaming at Mary Earps. So I don't know how you guys stay so focused.
Yeah, like everybody loves Mary. I remember during the Euros, or even after the last Euros, of course, she was like absolutely key. But after that, even like my mum, I love Mary Earps. Like everybody just loves her. So it's gutting to see her obviously retire, but you can't knock the work that she's done and the shift that she's put in for the national team over the last few years. And I'm really happy that I at least got to share like a few little moments with her.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess some of the other Lionesses you've shared more moments with, the likes of Fran Kirby, Keats, you touched on there. How much have they kind of maybe contributed and helped with your development, I guess, both at Brighton and then settling into senior camp as well?
Well, they've both been incredible this year, like scored massive goals and driven the team forward. Just the mentality and how they train and how they push the squad on and demand us to win. You know, with Dario coming in, he changed that mentality a bit, but also so did these girls, you know, because they're winners. That's all they know how to do. So, like I said, I went to camp with Nikita. We drove in the car together. And then she was just always there, like, checking in on me. But, you know, she's very much like, you feel... I'm quite close with Keats, and I just feel that if I ever need anything, she would just drop it and she'd, you know, be there for me. And... Fran spoke to me before I went to camp and was very much like, do what you do at Brighton, you know, don't shy away from this opportunity, you know, you deserves to get this chance, you know, don't be shy, come and be yourself and be a leader and everything like that. And was checking in on me as well. So I was very, very lucky to go along with those two, definitely.
Is there any moment this season that maybe stands out for you as one of the kind of the biggest highs, I guess?
Well, obviously going on camp was just a real high.
Even with Brighton.
Yeah, I was just about to say that win against Arsenal at home is probably like the most I've ever enjoyed a game. And I don't even think I played well at all that game. I think I had like one of my worst games of the season because it's just sort of like running and defending, and then we'd hit them on the attack, and it was just like an incredible game. And to beat them and that was the game that sort of secured us that 5th spot. I think that's the most I've ever enjoyed a game in my life, considering like I don't think I had a good game at all. So I would say that's my highlight, just because of the team. We needed that, you know, we've worked so hard, the staff had worked so hard, and to secure that spot with that at home, the last game of the season. You know, we had actually an incredible run at home this season. We only dropped a few points there. So to round it off with that, with the amount of sort of fan engagement we'd have at home and stuff like that, it just felt like the perfect end to our home campaign. So I'd say that's probably my high.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that home form, because you must kind of, I mean, not that you maybe get more nervous going away from home, but there must just be a real kind of ease knowing you're playing at home. It's like one less thing to worry about. It's something that's entirely in your control, I guess.
Yeah, I remember in recent years our form hasn't been as good as this season. Even particularly last season or the season before, it was like pretty bad actually. And then we just went into this year, and I don't know what the shift was. I couldn't tell you, but it was like, we don't lose at home sort of thing. It just felt like that. And then I think our first loss was against Man City, but it was a 2-1 and it was super close, and we gave them a good game. And then there was one with Liverpool as well at the Amex, which was a massive loss for us at the time. But I think like there was only a couple of games really where we dropped points, even with United and Chelsea and Arsenal. Like we was always giving them a good game at home. So it just felt that, especially with the crowd and how much our home support had grown, especially this season, that we was really going to make it hard for anyone who came to play us at home.
It becomes a bit of a fortress, and I guess it's actually something you're kind of seeing around some of the other teams, is they develop that fortress, which I think is important when we talk about closing the gap. And it's like having those little things that you can control that give you that extra edge. And it's cool to start to see more of that across the league. You mentioned earlier that when you did get that call up that you were in a bad mood after a loss. I wonder if it was the Tottenham one where you almost came back and then didn't. I can't remember if that was around April time. But are you that kind of person? Do you dwell on losses, or how quickly do you get over them? Or does it depend on the performance maybe?
It does depend on the performance as well. But I mean, I've been at Brighton now 5 seasons, I think. So it's become, you know, I mean, when I first joined, I think I was very much like, 17-year-old. I'm here to develop and try and play. And now it's like I said before, the highlight of my season is probably one of my worst games of the season. You know, I care so much about the club, about the girls, about us moving forward. So, yeah, when we drop points, especially when I know we could have won or we should have performed better, you know, like it eats me alive for a few days, definitely.
You touched on it there. You obviously living in Brighton, looking at your Instagram, you clearly love getting out like to the beach and sampling some of the local coffee scenes. Like, what's a nice day off in Brighton like for you when you're not angry about a game?
Well, yeah, I'm pretty chill. I just like to go for a nice coffee with my friends. I love to paint and draw, and I mean the beach. I mean, I can show you. It's like literally there.
Oh wow! Okay.
I'm like having a little dip in the water. You know, nothing too crazy, but I just sort of like try to take it pretty chill on my days off. So at the minute, all my friends have gone home, and I'm sort of wondering who I can hang out with. But usually, yeah, there's always someone to sort of have a little chat with and catch up with.
Did you watch any of the football over the last week, the World Sevens or the Champions League final or anything like that? Did you need to get your fix?
Of course. Of course. I watched a little bit of I didn't know that the World Sevens was going on until like halfway through, because I've sort of not been as much on social media. So then I saw it and I was like, what is going on here? Like, I was seeing my friend Yulia Zagiotti, who went to Bayern, do the worm after she scored the goal. And I was like, what is this? Like,
they had the best
time. I've been missing out. Yeah. Bayern looked like they had a great time. So did United, to be fair. Like, the girls really just embraced that, which is like lovely to see. I'd like to have a go at one point, definitely. And then the Champions League final was just like amazing. Seeing the girls after, the Arsenal girls when they won, was really, really special. So it's great for like an English team to win. I know I don't want anyone else to win, but you know, to see an English team win is great. Yeah, I did really enjoy that game.
Do you think you'd be the kind of player that would thrive in a 7-a-side format? Because what I noticed was that the style seemed to encourage players to do what you're probably discouraged from doing in an 11. It's like, don't go yourself. Don't go try and take people on with fancy footwork. Whereas in the 7s, it was like, do it. Do you think you'd love that?
Oh, I'd absolutely love it. I'd like take all the reins off and just go crazy. I think I'd be trying everything under the sun. I'd absolutely love it. I mean, that's when I was younger. That's the type of thing that I absolutely loved, you know, when you just play freely. So, definitely at some point, hopefully I get to have a go.
If Brighton are involved, do you think you're the kind of team that would do like cool walk-ons? Would you have some sort of like team performance? I don't know if you saw Bayern in the final they were doing crowd surfing with one of their players, like, and United built like a little pyramid. It felt like if players were going to get injured, it wasn't going to be during the actual match. It was going to be whatever they were doing beforehand.
Oh, 100%. We would be all over that for sure. I mean, I was actually thinking, when did the girls rehearse this? Because they've just come off the back of a season. They must have been doing it at the hotel, but they were really like quite creative and well thought out and well planned and everything. I was thinking they've really like invested into this celebration. So it was lovely to see. And yeah, it looked like a lot of fun. I think we'd definitely give it a good go.
I'd love to know who did it first. Who kind of opened the door to cool walk-ons or funny goal celebrations? Because it feels like once one team did it, everyone else wanted to do it, and then once it's been done in this 7s, I feel like as the next one goes on, we're just going to see more and more elaborate kind of performances.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like people are going to start preparing all season for the World 11s tournament, I think, and their celebrations and how they go into it. But like I said, I missed the first few days, so I didn't know when they sort of started, if it was just the vibe from the beginning or what was what. But so when did they start celebrating and stuff like that?
I don't even know. I think it might have been Bayern who kind of kicked off the whole thing. They definitely went to have fun, and I think the vibe was definitely encouraging that kind of enjoyment. Like at one point they were just playing music for just the corners, and then as it went on they were like, okay, maybe we'll play the music kind of quietly, and then the players were like, no, turn the music up. So the music was playing the whole way through. So it kind of like developed as the 3 days went on, which was which is pretty cool. We're going to end up just tuning in for the performance now and not actually watching the football. Or it's
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, it seems though the girls went there with the right mindset of just having a good time and having some fun. It looked like super sunny and nice sort of vibe there. So I'm glad the girls went there and just had fun because, like I said, I think maybe they went in with the what's this going to be like and a bit apprehensive, but looked like an absolute ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking ahead to next season, what are you thinking in terms of like your main goals, what you want to achieve, all that serious business as a player, but also maybe as a squad as well?
Well, right now my focus is sort of staying fit because I don't know what could happen. Anything could happen. But as soon as sort of like that Euro squad comes out, if I'm going, incredible, amazing. If I'm not going, then I'll definitely be cheering the girls on and turn my focus to next season. But at the minute, I have just sort of been reflecting on last season and thinking about it and all the highs and all the lows. I haven't got much into next season yet, to be fair. We have... I'll be excited to see like if players come in and what happens and stuff like that. But, I know the club now and I know the manager we've got and everything. We'll definitely be going for more than what we got last season, for sure.
Yeah, it must be difficult, kind of the not knowing, the having to stay ready. But I feel like you're definitely in the right mindset, given you're only still thinking about football and keeping yourself fit and going training. So you're fully ready if it happens.
Yeah, well, I sort of I wouldn't like there to be a single chance that I'm called upon and I'm not ready, And if I'm not going, then it's absolutely fine. It's no problem. Like I said, my focus will just shift to next season. But for now, I'm ready and I'll stay ready until I know.